Thanks for clicking play, however you're following along, and welcome to the 2021 Ticats season preview powered by TELUS. I'm the digital host for the Ticats, Louie B, and I wanted to thank you for tuning in all week as we do our best to get you set for the upcoming season. We've made it to the final episode of the week, and for it, we're looking at the guys up the middle for the Cats, specifically the quarterbacks and backfield. With Jeremiah Masoli and Dane Evans both back under center, in addition to the addition of Don Jackson, the return of a healthy Sean Thomas Erlington, and the continued development of Jackson Bennett, Malik Irons, and Nikola Kalinic, there are no shortage of storylines when it comes to one of the most important position groups on the field. Joining us on today's show will be offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach Tommy Condell. One of the newest members, we mentioned him already, Don Jackson, will join us as well. The Hamilton Spectator, Steve Milton, will give us his 2 cents. And finally, former Ticat player and general manager of the 1999 Grey Cup champion Ticats team, Canadian Football Hall of Famer Neil Lumsden, will be by to wrap up the show. So sit back, relax, and don't forget to subscribe and like, or even leave a comment if you feel so inclined. Let's get this thing started with my conversation with offensive coordinator Tommy Condell. And I'm very pleased to be joined by the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. That is Tommy Condell. Coach Tommy, it is great to see you. Last time we chatted, I asked you what you were most excited about when everybody gets back to Hamilton. You wanted to hug everybody you saw. You're this close. You're this close to that. I know there are rules around quarantine, but you got to be super excited.
Yeah, they're in quarantine. I am super excited to get a chance to at least know that they're in the city. So yeah, certainly I'm ready to see him, getting excited and whatever protocols we need to do. But I certainly looking forward to seeing him, and getting the chance to coach him in person and for have the whole team to be a part of it.
We have to address the 218 and 228 pound elephant in the room. That's Jeremiah Masoli and Dane Evans. You have 2 very good quarterbacks who are coming to camp. It's going to be a competition. We know that. How excited are you to see these 2 elite quarterbacks compete?
Oh, to me, it never changes. So, those guys are guys that always want to become better football players, better teammates, better men. So it's an exciting process. They're very aggressive in regards to navigating the playbook, trying to absorb all the information that they can. So I've always said this, and they all say it the same, and I know it sounds redundant in many ways, but it is iron sharpens iron. And so it's we all do it together, and it's not just from player to player, as such as you alluded to with Jeremiah and Dane, but it's for myself, to go into, and it's a great environment to be in a competitive environment for ideas, so to speak, and try to compete in everything that we do. So it's really not anything new. I'm excited to just get everyone here in all the positions, to tell you the truth.
How important is that bond, though, off the field that Jeremiah and Dane have? And we've talked about this before, but the injury to Jeremiah gave Dane the opportunity. But Jeremiah was there every single step of the way. How important was that for you to see as an offensive coordinator, knowing going into 2021 that they're gonna compete? Did I cut out there? Sorry.
It's all right. The people that they are is just exhibited, and it's expressed in the game of football. So that just expressed itself in that way. It never really changed, like when Jeremiah, the support and the support system in the way that Dane did that. And then when it was turned around in regards to the injury, it was the same. They both supported each other, and it started this the day that they were here. So, really nothing has changed. They're always into support, and there's always into competition, because there's only one quarterback that plays historically in that way for that one. They accept the ball, So, they've always, everyone comes in here and wants to be the starter, and we expect that not only from the quarterback back position, but from a receiver standpoint. And from a running back standpoint, from a lineman standpoint. And we hope that those individuals come in and are going to take and support, but certainly compete for the job that's available.
We have Don Jackson coming up later on in this episode. One of the only kind of new guys we talked about during this podcast, but you wouldn't know he's new by talking to him. This guy has a passion for Ticats football. He's bought in. He knows this is a family. What have you seen from him via Zoom? You haven't even gotten to coach him on the field yet, but what have you seen from Don Jackson that makes you excited about what he could do?
Well, from an athletic standpoint, from a football standpoint, obviously we got a chance to evaluate him for a lot of games that, in regards to when he was at Calgary. So we're excited to have him additionally to the team, as we get together and really get to know each other more and more. It'll be great. We're really excited about Don. Obviously, Mr. Hill's available too. And then also, Mr. Marshall, Brandon's brother. And so we're excited. And of course, I'm not going to forget any of the guys that are here that bring the physicality, like Mr. Irons, Action Jackson, and of course, Earlington. So those guys are going to be able to really compete like we talked about earlier. And I'm excited to have them all in the room and to be able to look at those guys eye to eye to be able to get better.
How many times did you kind of wake up in the last 20 months with a play in your head and had to kind of run over? It's like, okay, well, if Malik does this and I put, Nicola here, and I have to think, because your mind's always at work, and especially when you have all these pieces with so much versatility. And you mentioned some of them, and Nicola's kind of what he did in 2019, and Sean Thomas Earlington, I know you're very excited about what he can do when healthy. Yeah. You have to wake up at random hours and just draw up these plays that you can't wait to see in action.
Well, I've always had those issues no matter what, but I can say this, it's been exciting to get the players back, and they're ultimately, we'll compete with the, like you talk about the science and the scheme in the head, but we're going to win because of the players. That's what it comes down to, and their competitiveness and their ability to perform under pressure. And you talk about, Nikolai and his physicality is infectious. I can tell you, I love it being around him and his competitive nature. But with all those things, again, we're going to win with the players. And to me, we got to be brilliant in the basics. We can think of all these types of things, but we still need to be and do the fundamental things correct and on a consistent and reliable basis. And that's what we need to instill early on in training camp. And then we can certainly open up the box of, Christmas will come early, I guess, August 5th, hopefully.
A lot of people looked at what Nikolai did last year or 2019, and then they saw you draft a guy like Jake Burt first overall. And they thought, okay, well, now you got these two players that really have the versatility, that can line up on the outside, that are great blockers. Jake Burt, what are you excited about him? And, how do you plan on using him?
Like anything, like this whole culture that we have when we started with competitiveness, when you asked me with the quarterback position, it's competitiveness everywhere. And at that position as well. We're excited about both the tight ends and as well as the fullback that we have and getting a chance to come in and do different things with those. We're always going to promote the things that they do well. And then as they learn the system and things that they are doing for the first time, then we'll ease on in it. I think they're both going to do similar but different things. And as their strengths come out and are, kind of expose themselves throughout the practice, we'll certainly accentuate those strengths and then get a chance to see the things that they need to improve upon. We'll do it in an individual basis. Really excited to have, Jeff Reinbold as their coach. So as you know, he has had numerous, lots of knowledge. So very, very happy with that, as well with Coach Gibson to be able to work with those two guys too. So it gives us honestly a standard and a lot of experience from the coaching side. And so to be able to utilize them in all different ways, it's going to be exciting.
Now, you've used the term tight end, and that's not normally a position that is talked a lot about in the CFL. But in the last few years with your offenses, have you seen something? Is there something like league-wide schematically that you've kind of picked up on and thought, okay, it's time for the resurgence of this physical position? Like, where have you picked up on this? Because it seems to have been working so far.
I think all throughout – there's been sprinkles of it in the CFL, certainly. Everyone uses, let it be a tight end position so to speak, as an in-line position, let it be from a receiver or a true tight end body. I think it all comes down to the personnel or the actual person and the skills that they possess and their ability to learn and do all those types of things that really make sure that that position can be opened up and used as an advantageous matchup. So I think we do. I think we have two guys that really give us something that, like other guys don't, and I think that's always the important thing they give. They give something that another person doesn't. And but also we don't lose things when we're utilizing those individuals. And we certainly haven't done that with Nikolai, and I'm obviously have high expectations for Mr. Bird as well. So I think all those, and with Gauthier, I mean, it's we have high expectations for all of them.
I do want to – we did earlier in the week, we talked to new O-line coach Mike Gibson. Jared Baines, of course, has been here for a few years now, but he's got a new position as the wide receivers coach. What's that been like, bringing them into these new roles? And just what are the conversations like in the rooms with you guys? Like, obviously not give us too much, but there's got to be a lot of real good football talk going on in there.
I'll start out with Coach Baines. I got a chance to work with him last year, so it's really, nothing new in that regard. He was getting a chance to work with the receivers then. It's just now the official title. But he's very extremely detailed, hardworking, and diligent, and obviously extremely intelligent. So he's able to do a lot of multiple things in regards to not only get a chance to establish and be a teacher first, but also he has the knowledge and all the analytics that he just runs circles around people. So he certainly has all that at a moment's notice like that. So it's been an honor to get a chance to work with Coach Baines and to watch his progression and his continued development as not only as a football coach, but also as a game planner and a producer of ideas. And then getting a chance to hire Coach Gibson and have Jeff Reinbold available on the same side. That's a wealth of knowledge. Both guys have, been there, done that 2 times over. And it's certainly, and it's certainly not a shot at them. I'm just very honored to get a chance to work with those individuals, to go into a daily meeting, to go in there and not come together to a plan. I'm not coming down the proverbial mountain and saying this is what we're doing. And now it's really a collective plan of saying, hey, this is what could be doing, and with Mike's knowledge of protections and things of that nature, and as well as Jeff's idea of being able, and he's able to, do both languages, meaning offense and defense, and he speaks fluently. And we get a chance to use that so much. It's just honestly, it's an honor for me. I enjoy coming to work every day. Obviously with Coach O, I love it, and then I get a chance to see the guys that are in there, and we can have the ability to really enjoy each other's company, get some work done, and talk about the game that we love.
And because you have so much versatility on that roster, I mean, I feel like that relationship is so much more important than it would be on any other team, because you have a guy who can line up on the offensive line, but also, go out wide. Like the synergy that you guys have to be on the same page with, it comes with these meetings. It comes with these conversations.
Yep. I think we all need to know we do talk about positionless coaching, so we're all involved. I expect that, Gibby understands the progressions, not to that detail of what I'm asking for the quarterbacks, but he certainly knows where, how, and also to be able to coach the different types of meshes, things of that nature from the quarterback, and also understand where the receiver's going. And so is Jeff. And obviously to be able to have Coach Baines come up. Yeah, he's coaching the receivers, but there's going to be times when, I'm not there with the quarterback. I'm over here working with someone else, and he's able to coach that, or he's able to coach with the tight ends, and they're working a tight end tackle drill. And it's very similar to some of the things that maybe we're asking the receivers to do on some blocks. So we certainly are all together. We're on the same page, and it takes time, but we all want to. We certainly have all skin in the game.
That's well said. Coach, I know you're very busy. We're only a few short hours away from training camp now. So thank you for giving us some time today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited. Can't wait to see everyone at Tim Hortons Field.
All right, we're talking about the positions up the middle, of course. That's the quarterbacks, running backs, halfbacks, fullbacks. And we've been talking to a lot of guys who are getting set for maybe their second, third, fourth, fifth Ticats training camp. How about their first training camp? Don Jackson getting ready for Ticats training camp number 1. Of course, he was signed way back in February of 2020. Don, it's so great to see you, man. How excited are you? What are you feeling right now?
Man, I'm feeling good. I mean, this quarantine been pretty cool, man. It's been all right, but it's been a long time coming, man. I'm just excited to be in Hamilton, man. I'm just excited to be here and ready to get to work.
Now, the thing about your 2019 season was you were having such a good year, and then just injuries happened. Do you almost look at 2020 not as a blessing, because we knew you were going to be healthy to start 2020, but just having that extra time for your body, making sure everything's right, and knowing you could come back stronger in camp in 2021? Was it one of those things that you can see the positive of?
Oh, of course. I mean, it just gave me the year and a half or whatever it was. It gave me time to kind of like have like a checklist of everything that I want to take care of as far as mentally, physically. As far as I had the concussion back in 2019, and it was believe it or not, it was hard to bounce back from. If I ever thought I had a concussion, that was the first time I really had one. So it took time. It took a lot of time to kind of like get back to myself and feeling right. And I think I did the necessary stuff to get ready.
And you hear about it so often, guys who, especially when it comes to something like you were dealing with, guys who try and rush their way back. And guys, you didn't have to fight it. You weren't fighting the clock. You weren't looking at a calendar. And you talked about it mentally. How big of a part of that was for you? Not getting older, but, being a more experienced player in this league, getting your mind right. Do you see that like as that of a more priority?
That's the number one. That's the number one, my man. Like simple. I think nothing else is even going to align correctly if you're not correct up here. So I think that was just my main focus. And that just took some time learning myself, understanding the things that make me go, the things that aren't good for me. And really just time away from headbanging and stuff like that, man. It did well. So like I said, man, I did a lot of mental work, a lot of spiritual work, to take the next step. So I'm excited to watch that kind of stuff unfold.
And I remember talking to you after you signed, and I remember talking to Berkey about it. And the one word that kept coming back was motivated. Yeah. How motivated you were to get back on the field. Now that it's within sight, it's within reach, what's that motivation level like for you? Man,
it's I guess it's like I don't need to find it at all. Like there's no more outside factors that need to motivate me. It's kind of just all inside, you know what I mean? Like I don't have to reach for anything. Like I know my goals. I know the things I want to achieve as far as personally, as far as with the team. And all that stuff is helping me become a better person in the long run. So that stuff is just I guess the answer, the motivating thing is just not, I don't have to search for it at all. It's right there. So I'm just excited that I'm here and we're getting ready to go, man.
And I was just about to say, it's the perfect fit for you. If you could have picked anywhere, which you did, you were a free agent. You got to go. You got to pick wherever you wanted to.
Yeah.
But I mean, it almost makes so much more sense now, than it did in 2020. Just because you guys are both on this level of hey, let's do this. Like you haven't had a single practice with the Ticats, but man, you're talking like you've been here for years.
It feels like family. It's some cats already. Like I've already connected with Soli, Frankie. You name it, Chris Fry, you can name it from defense to offense. There's guys I've already connected with, and I'm already starting to build this bond with. And going to Dallas in the offseason also helped, going to go meet those guys and get to work with them. So it's such a family feel right now, and everybody's got clear vision, and we understand what we want, and I think that makes for a good recipe.
Fans are excited. You got to be excited. You mentioned the workout that you guys had in Dallas. You got Dane throwing you balls. You got Jeremiah throwing you balls. I mean, you got to be excited no matter who the quarterback is coming out of camp, number 1, 1A, 1B. You got to be excited about this offense that you're joining, eh?
Oh, man, I'm excited about the offense from Depot, from STE, from from the guys we got up front, Van Zyl and all those guys we got up front, like it's Speedy Banks, you know what I mean? Braylon, like you could just name them left and right, you know what I mean? So that was also one of my thought processes even coming to Hamilton in the long run. I mean, in the beginning was being a puzzle piece to a team where I feel I can just help improve. Simple as that. I just wanted to make sure wherever I go that I can be a piece that can help us just get over the hump or get to the next level.
And that's really what this team is all about. And you mentioned some of the guys there, but also, let's talk Coach O. Let's talk Tommy Condell.
Man,
you've had your hands on Tommy Condell's playbook here. What's it going to be like to everything you've seen, all those X's and O's you've seen on paper? Yeah. How excited are you to put those onto the field, onto the turf at Tim Hortons Field?
Man, I'm excited, man. It's to say the least. Those guys are masterminds, and overall, they're good, really, really good people. Coach O, I've had great conversations with him, and Tommy have had great conversations with him as well. And I guess I just want to just keep building on that relationship and gaining trust with my teammates and the coaching staff to be able to go out there and make those plays.
You mentioned STE, but guys like Jackson Bennett,
yeah,
Big Bert, a draft pick, he's going to come in. Nicola obviously plays in back there with you. You look at the talent of the guys you're playing with. That's, again, we talked motivating factors. We talked about excitement, but just being in that room, what's that going to be like for you?
When you have great players around you, when you're surrounded by great players, all it does is just heighten the standard. Like, it's simple. That was one of the first things I said when I got to meet everybody in the room and talk to all the backs and the fullbacks and tight ends and stuff like that. It was simple. Like, you guys have a standard here. Let's make sure we keep it, and let's watch it flourish. Simple as like that. But like just being around such talented guys, at the end of the day, probably make my job a little bit easier.
The one thing I think Berkey also liked about your versatility, you got great hands for a running back, right? And this offense, like you said, you were talking about the masterminds at work. You got to be right. Like, do you set a goal? Like, hey, maybe I could catch for 500, run for 1,000, catch for do you set personal goals like that for you, or is it more day to day? I'm just going to do my job. Whatever the stats come, they come.
Man, if any football player ever told you that they don't have goals set in mind as far as how they're going to perform, they're lying to you. But I don't let those things carry me. I don't let them lead me. I'm more of to going into the flow of things. I understand it's just important that I show up. If I show up and I be a consistent guy, consistent player, and continue to work hard and be a good guy to be around, all of those things will unfold for themselves. You know what I mean? So I ain't gonna force nothing, and if they don't know your dreams, they can't shoot them down.
Well, there you go. A win where you catch 5, you run for another 25 is better than a loss where you run for 100.
Hey, man, I want a Grey Cup of all things. I got to taste that, and I want that again above all things. I want to be able to help this team get to a Grey Cup and win it.
And to bring it to Hamilton, to do it at Tim Hortons Field. That really is one of the, haven't hosted a game since the early 90s, haven't won since the late 90s. It doesn't need to be said about that being motivating you guys, but it's got to be in the back of your mind. Man,
I just know that come December, the hammer going to be cracking. So I'm just trying to see what that feels like, man. And that's not even overlooking was just the home opener. It's going from everything that I've heard and everything I've seen, it's going to be amazing. It's a fan base that loves their team, a fan base that's out here in full support. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be able to meet those fans, meet those people, and show love to the people that show us love.
I know you're in the middle of your quarantine here. Saturday you'll get to see everybody. So what are you doing? Are you working out more, or are you writing more bars? Are you splitting your time here? What? You gotta be right. You gotta be right now. Just a little bit.
Just a little extra, but look. I'm literally, before I got on here with you, I was recording some music. Literally right before I got on here with you, dog. So I've been doing music, man. I'm still doing that. I got music on the way, so I'm trying to. I'm just trying to make sure that if I got the time, why not create?
I was just about to say, when are you going to have this, hopefully never again, an uninterrupted 7 days of just you in a hotel room?
Never.
You might as well use it. Well, we can't wait to hear what you produce out of quarantine here, man. We can't wait to see you on Saturday. Thanks so much for doing this, Don. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you, my man. Thank you for the opportunity.
We've all been waiting this moment, probably, the players, the coaches, the fans. But Steve Milton has been waiting for this moment for a long time. Milty, how many training camps will this be for you? Not to put you on the spot, but
hard to know, Louie. Probably because some years I didn't go to training camp when I was still covering the Ticats because I was doing Blue Jays stuff, and I might only do a few Ticat games. But it's got to be high 20s, somewhere in that mid to high 20s. And most of those years, I wasn't the only Ticat. I mean, we had a beat writer almost all those years. We haven't actually got a beat writer now, just me. So
yeah. No, well, we appreciate that we have you, and we appreciate they have you on with us because it's going to be an interesting camp. There are some spots that are set, but there's a lot of spots that aren't.
Well, there's 36 people. I think I checked with the team today, and I think there's 36 people back that played in 2019. When you consider that there's, and that would include practice rosters, right? So you consider that including a practice roster, you've got sometimes usually 55 people there. So that means without anything, 20 plus are gone, so a lot of those are in depth positions, but yeah, there's some stuff that has to be done across the defensive backfield. Some stuff has to be done there, but obviously the key one is between two returning players, and that's the one that's going to get all the attention, and that's the quarterback. Obviously.
Let's talk about it because, I mean, we know in the CFL, it's so cliche to say, but we know in the CFL it takes two quarterbacks to win, right?
Never more obvious than the last year that they played, 2019.
And here we are with two elite quarterbacks, and the COVID was terrible, but for Jeremiah Masoli, he gets to come in 100% healthy and really compete for that job.
Yeah, and one less year on his arm, so one more, extra, all that extra year to help the knee, but also one less year on his arm. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. There'll be a timing issue, of course, at the start, but as there always is when you're coming back from injury, plus add a year of COVID onto it. I think that's really, really helpful. I mean, it's good for the team. It's going to be a pretty good battle. I think they both have been backups before. Now, Dane's never been a starter not in the pros and then lost the job, which would happen if Mazzoli took over this time. But Mazzoli has. He's been that twice. Like sort of a temporary starter the one time, a starter another time, and lost the job. And so he kind of knows. Dane also knows that his future is very bright in this league, just because of 2019. So I think it'll be a pretty good situation. I think they can handle it given the personalities of those two guys. That wouldn't always be the case.
And how do you think Tommy Condell and Orlando Steinauer use having two number one quarterbacks? Do you think that goes into kind of the way they're building their playbook? Do you think that they might, knowing Tommy, knowing Orlando, do you think they do something a little more interesting with having two quarterbacks? Yeah, you do, eh?
Yeah, I do. I think there'll be something. I don't think you'll see it every game. Mm-hmm. And, it's one of those things where you could have a kind of a surprise package here and there. There could be a relief thing. Hey, well, this isn't going well. And we'll bring in, and we won't bring in the guy to run the same plays, but we'll run in the plays that may be a little more suited to him. I think a lot will depend, though, Louis, on how this training camp goes and what you see. I was speaking with Orlando, and one of the things he was told by all the people in the NCAA and the NFL, and all these guys, all the coaching staff went to school on that by talking, because they've all been through a delayed start at all of them, and some of them didn't play like for a whole year. Like some of the NCAA colleges didn't play till the spring, right? So they've all talked to people about it, and Orlando said the primary theme of that was expect the unexpected. So you're going to plan as much as you can, and then you've got to really see what's happening there. So the things we talked about here, how long. Like, what about 19 months without throwing a ball? All of those kinds of things. Which one's more affected by that? That could affect a number of things. And that could affect, including the things we're talking about here, the packaging. Do you put in a package right at the start? Let's suppose Dane wins the job, but you want a little more, whatever that Mazzoli brings to it, and you might have a little package for that. But you might not put that in at the start if you feel he isn't ready yet, that kind of thing. So, but I think there'll be something. I think there'll be more than at just quarterback we see that. I think you'll see that at running back / receiver.
I was just about to say, let's get into that, because I think one of the storylines of 2019 that kind of flew under the radar was the emergence of Nikola Kalinic.
Yes.
And then they go out and they get Jake Bird, who it kind of built the same way, right? But the options that Tommy Condell is going to have at receiver, at back, at halfback, fullback. I mean, really, really a lot of versatility on this Ticats offense.
Well, it's a really good point you're making, Louie, because the emergence of Kalanic and that style. People say, we've had this before in the league. Well, there's been a few guys like that, but what would happen is they become sort of a one-time thing that way, or they're the only player. Not only did he emerge in 2019, he influenced their 2021 draft because of who they took then, right? When they took Bird, nobody had him else anywhere ranked nearly as high. But the Ticats, what he's worth to them means they can really use Kalanic now as in all of those positions, because they don't have to change the playbook if he gets hurt, and you always have to think, what happens if he gets hurt, right? So not only is there depth there in what he can do, like playing that tight receiver, tight end, running back, fullback, those three things, and also peel out of the backfield a little bit to get passes. So can Burt on paper, anyway, and he's done it at a high level in a very high league, and he's done it he's done it in a practice situation in the NFL. And
he's Canadian, right? I mean that's got to be
the whole deal.
The ratio breaker. He's got to be the ultimate ratio breaker. And then Sean Thomas Erlington. I mean this team is really built, and let's give credit to the scouting staff and the front office of Drew and Berkey who built this. I mean, in the back of their mind, they seem to be more in tune to the plug and play on the ratio than I think they've been in a few years here.
I think so. And let's look at sort of the number 5, let's say maybe 6. And that would be 5 receivers, 1 in the and backfield, like the receivers in the backfield combining to make 5 right? Because you have maybe 6.
Your offensive line, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe 6. And so you can move back and forth in there. You could go with Canadian at running back because you're not really happy with the way Canadians are receiving. And I think Erlington will probably, and you and I were talking about this privately a little while ago, that we think that Erlington, I think he will. I think he'll open camp and the season in the short slot. But there's a lot of reasons for that. He takes a lot of passes there now anyways when he's running back. Yeah. Like he takes the long handoff there. He'll come up, swing out from running back and take it from where he would take it from a short slot anyway. So he'd be inside. He could, and then they can go American the rest of the way. And if they decide they want to have 2 Canadians in there, they could do that and have Malik Irons backed up by Jackson Bennett, a few guys like that, or if Erlington runs out of more of a tailback spot, or Kalanic could run out of there, but as a fullback. So somewhere you could have a whole bunch of things going on there as a Canadian in behind the quarterback. If you wanted to go say 4 or 5 receivers that are American out there, if that's the way it shakes down. The American receiver position outside of a couple of guys. I think that's going to be a battle that's an underrated battle. I think somebody will make it there, and salary cap may come into that.
I mean, the DeVere Posey, Braylon Addison, Brandon Banks, Jalen Acklin. I mean, those are good. DeVere Posey was a number 1 receiver. Braylon Addison, if it wasn't for Speedy, would have been 1,500 yards, but still 1,000-yard receivers. I just want to touch on the offensive line because you wrote, you reported that. Mike Filer wasn't, he was ready to start his life out east. He was ready to move on from the Ticats. Came back.
By the Ticats. Yeah.
And then, you know what? Coach O gives him a call and says, we could really use you. And, sure enough, he's here. But there are guys ready to step up.
For that we can get into later. But
yeah.
If there's a longer training camp and exhibition games, maybe we don't see Mike, and Mike knows that. Yeah. Right. And who knows? I mean, Mike's the kind of guy you want around. It's a championship club with a hometown Grey Cup. So you got to have some proven depth of center there, and if Sirocco gets hurt or they don't know, they didn't have time to develop anybody else or to see if anybody else can work there. That's part of it. And then Mike has proven. I mean, he had a great 2019 once he got in there. He was terrific.
And I was just about to say, 2019, that's a whole story, right? I mean, 2019, he wasn't number one on the depth chart going into 2019.
Number 3.
So who's to say, right? Who's to say he can?
Well, when number one got hurt, they brought in an American to play the top.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I'm not sure what the rules will be next Saturday when you and we might be in different sections at Tim Hortons Field watching from wherever we are. But I can't wait to see you in person. I can't believe it's only 7 days away, brother.
Shooting the breeze on football as usual. It's almost too tough, isn't it, during spring training? Can I just take 1 second here?
Go for it.
I talked to Orlando, and I wasn't sure what the hitting rules were, but they're going to have the trench battles. And, of course, in training camp, that's where you see the receivers down, let's say the left end of the field, and in the end zone, you know that the top 5 guys on defense or top 2 guys are going against each other, one on offense and one defense, or 2 guys trying for the team. The receivers stop and look. Yeah. 100 yards down the field. They have a look. So that's going to happen. So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have lots to talk about. Milty, thank you so much for doing this.
Okay, Louie.
All right, we have made it to our ultimate guest. It is our final episode. It's our final segment of this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm very pleased to be joined by a Canadian Football Hall of Famer, former player for the Ticats, former executive for the Ticats. It's Neil Lumsden. Neil, thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate your time today.
Oh, this is awesome. It's better to be inside and semi-cool than outside and melting.
Speaking of melting, the turf at Tim Hortons Field is going to be pretty hot once the Ticats step on it. Let's talk about your memories from training camp. I don't want to date you here at all, but it was a few years ago. What do you remember about your first training camp as a professional?
Yeah, you're being nice. It was a few years ago, is right. Though I can still feel my first training camp in '76 with the Argonauts, and it was at a time where the Argonauts were going through a transition, and ownership of Bill Hodgson was the owner, and J.R. Albrecht came in as general manager, and he wanted to set a standard and a tempo. So what happened was, and again, here's the guy coming out of the University of Ottawa, won a national championship there. A lot of great players from that university team went on to play pro. So I wasn't the only GG in CFL camps. And actually my roommate, as I mentioned earlier, my roommate at U of T at the dorms was from the Ottawa GG team as well. So, and many times we'd look at ourselves thinking, and I won't use the word I'm thinking, but what the hell is going on? It was 2 weeks at CNE Stadium on the old turf, twice a day, with 125 players and coaches running us through everything you do in training camp and trying to assess players from Alabama to Alberta to Ontario to you name it. And the first thing I noticed for me was the level of talent was so high. We had All-Americans, we had Pac-10s. All these great players were getting a chance. And at that time, coming to a CFL camp and making money in the CFL was as good or better than the NFL. So there were a lot of players that wanted to stay. And I recall a number of situations, but that I won't bore you with as a young player going up against someone of the likes of a Bruce Smith, who was a defensive end at the time, and why he was at that camp, I guess he was a rookie at the time, and playing with some great players on defense, eventually making the team. So 2 weeks on the old AstroTurf at CNE Stadium. If you made the cut, you went up to St. Andrews College in Aurora, and we had 2 weeks on the grass there. And, of course, exhibition games in there. And then so it was a full month of training camp. And I'm not going to complain about it. It certainly helped me understand what I was getting into. I think it gave us an edge that we didn't have before coming out of university or college in Canada. And it really, I decided, absolutely, this is what I want to do. I'm not going to fold. And that's when Lou Ferrigno was brought in to our training camp as he bulked up to 290 to play defensive tackle, never taken a snap in his life. It was a celebrity camp around the rest of us that were trying to make the football team. So that, and then it changed after that when as I said to you earlier, when I got to Edmonton, camp was tough, still 2 days and was still a long period of time. But the attitude, the competitiveness was there in spite of what people might think because we're winning a bunch of cups. There was a very specific edge to everything we did when we went hard. And I think that's one of the things that Hugh Campbell was able to do is create balance, but never, ever lose that competitive edge, even when you're running drills, even during 2 days. You got to be special, and you got to be special when it's tough.
Did you learn as a player that I've noticed talking to players now that once they've been in the league a few years, once they've gone through a full camp, full seasons, they start talking about the game mentally and preparing mentally. Did you realize throughout your career, even though camps were so physically demanding, as you went through your career, the mental aspect of your game was just as important as keeping your body right?
Absolutely. And what you learned and what I learned after my first camp is that as important as the physical part is, once you've had and experienced a very tough training camp, it is all about the mental. It's not making mistakes. And the mental preparation, to your point, which doesn't just talk about your state of mind, it talks about how you prepare, how you deal with adversity. What is at stake when you don't remember what you went over the night before with your offensive coordinator in your offensive meeting that you're walking through in the morning, that you're running full steam in the afternoon? And if you make a mistake, let's have the next guy. It was very much you better get it right and get it right fast. That eased up a bit as you become a veteran, because you know some of the things that the young guys don't know, and you use that as an edge, if you will. And you share and you help, but you don't share and help too much because it's about your job. And you want them to make the right decision, and the right decision in my case was me always. So, you help the rookies a little bit, but then you say, hey pal, you're on your own. Figure this out. I had to do it. You had to do it. So it's without question, you still have to, it was still physically draining because it was hard, but it really was about getting together and saying, okay, I'm now ready for this again. I don't care what you throw at me. I'll deal with it mentally, physically, emotionally, injury. It doesn't matter.
Let's jump ahead a couple of decades. You're at 1999 Hamilton Tiger Cats training camp. Your team had just lost the Grey Cup the year before. You're building your new team. How much we've talked about this with Coach O. He said it multiple times that you read history to study it, to learn from it. Mm-hmm. How much did you take from the 98 loss and put into your team into 99?
Well, what I think is interesting about that whole scenario is, and some of the key components like Mike McCarthy, who had been in the league and had great success finding players, the Ron Lancaster as a head coach, director of football ops at the time, and using the foundation that really 98 as 98, the culmination of bringing the right pieces together, led by Danny McManus and Flutie, and I could go on to the names because it really was a cast of all-stars. And it was learning from not mistakes, but learning that you didn't want, or understanding you didn't want to lose again, and how not to let it happen. And I think one of the things, like I'm talking to you today, I can remember sitting down with Ron Lancaster at one of the breakfasts, just shooting the breeze and talk about things. And a couple of the things that he had said to me as the head coach, and a guy who had a wealth of experience on the field, all world on the field, coaching, tough time coaching in his early years, certainly in Saskatchewan, but then landed in Edmonton, had great success, and then we got him here in Hamilton. And he was looking around the breakfast meeting. Most of the players were there. And he said, at times we have to make a point. And those points are made to get everyone's attention, especially after, not so much that we had lost the Grey Cup, but that we had a successful season. And that it's easy. It's not easy. It's going to be harder. They say it's really hard to repeat. It's also hard to get back there. And he said, I will make a cut in the next 4 or 5 days that no one will expect. And it'll be based on someone's action. And that message that I deliver by releasing somebody will set the tone for the rest of the year. And sure enough, like 2.5 days later, a linebacker who will remain nameless, who was acting out a little bit during practice, he gassed him. Everyone went, it's not just about being really, really good. It's about being the right person who has great skills. And no one exemplified that more than Danny McManus, in my mind. And that was the start of, okay, as the expression goes, we're reloading. And they were as ready as, they reminded me as I stood back and watched and listened to Ronnie and talked to players, as I felt when I was in Edmonton as a player, that it's not a matter of what we're going to be there, and we will win this time. There's no question. I know everyone says that, but there's something special about a group of people that are of like mind and willing to do everything they have to do to get back and win a championship. And they did.
And you talk about, the 98, 99, they were a cast of all-stars. You mentioned the receiver group that you had. And then you look at this Ticats team and, you know, the emergence of a guy like Dane Evans or Jeremiah Masoli, all-stars like Braylon Addison and Speedy B, like the comparisons are there. Like, it's not just on paper. Like, this team has what it takes to win a championship.
No question. That's why I guess as a coach at that level, it becomes very frustrating when you have all the weapons that you need and it doesn't come to fruition, which again goes to the point that, you know, I had this discussion about the Toronto Maple Leafs with a pal the other day, and he was extolling the virtues of the great levels of talent that the Leafs have. And I said, yeah, and that got them what? Nothing. It's not just about talent. There's something about those talented guys that bring more to the table, that infects the rest of the group and becomes a momentum, and they drag people along. And to me, the Ticats, along with their head coach and their other coaches, have that ability now to drag everyone with them from a leadership perspective and get it done. And that's really hard to do. It's you know, people talk about great teams that never won. There are so many of them. Well, they're all missing certain pieces in each in the key individuals that they have as their leaders and their performers. There's something that's not there. Finding that mix, that perfect recipe, is hard to do. And I think it's time for Hamilton.
It's time, and we'll wrap up here with a question about the Grey Cup. I'm sure in your years in the front office with the Ticats, you tried as hard as you could to bring a Grey Cup here. We didn't think it would take until 2021 to bring the Grey Cup back to Hamilton, but here we are in December. What's it going to mean to showcase this area, you know, the Golden Horseshoe, Hamilton specifically, to the rest of Canada come Grey Cup time?
Well, I still feel in some ways, not as much as it was maybe 15 or 20 years ago, that people look at Hamilton and they think of nothing but steel. And that was a great thing because it added to the feeling that Hamilton's tough, Hamilton's strong, and all those great things. And those are all words. I think what you find now is culturally, Hamilton has taken so many steps to get to that next level. And the organizing committee and the community at large will be ready to step out and show everyone really what it's like to put a Grey Cup party on. And I don't think there'll be anybody that'll do any better than that organizing committee, the Ticats. And I just, you know, knock on wood, I just want that cat to be on somebody's helmet on the field at least 12 times per play. I'd be happy.
Well said. Neil, I'm definitely going to get you back for a future podcast. Hopefully, maybe it's a conversation in person, maybe socially distanced at the stadium somewhere. But thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. Thanks for being on today.
Oh, this is awesome. Thanks for thinking on me.
Our final interview of our final episode of our season preview podcast powered by TELUS. My thanks to you for listening. I always appreciate your insights and feedback. So if you have anything you want to tell me, you can hit me up on Twitter at Louie B_TV. Look forward to hearing from you. My thanks to all the guests who stopped by, from the coaches, players, analysts, and Hall of Fame alumni. So grateful to have a solid Rolodex of some of the best in the business to help me out. And thank you to Zach DiSabatino for putting this all together, cutting out my outtakes, and making sure that you can find it wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to follow the Ticats on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook all training camp and all season long as we bring you everything you need to know ahead of the 2021 season. And until next time, Oski Wee Wee, Oski Wawa, Holy Mackinac, Tigers, eat 'em raw.